Hi guys, Chris here with Xiaomi's Mi 6X. So this could possibly be the Mi A2. We don't really know that. It has not been confirmed by Xiaomi at this point. But based on the fact that the 5X turned out to be the A1, it's quite possible. So this mobile here from them has a focus on being slim, light, with good cameras. It's a mid-ranger. It has a mid-range chipset in here. Although the Snapdragon 636 is almost about as fast as this one here. Not a big difference when you look at Antutu scores. So it is powered by the Snapdragon 660, has Adreno 512 GPU. You get 4 GB of RAM or 6. Now my model has the 6 GB of RAM, 64 GB of storage, up to 128. It has a 3030 mAh battery. So because they've slimmed the body down on this, it is not as large as the Redmi Note series. So the Redmi Note 4, the Redmi Note 5, that has 4000 mAh battery sizes in there. And yes, that of course translates into less on-screen time. Now, I'm going to mention that here at the start of the video because I believe a lot of people want to know that information straight away. So with my testing, this one here, you can get around 7 hours of on-screen time. Whereas when I did continual use of the phone on the Redmi Note 5, I managed to get about 9 hours of on-screen time. So there's a big difference there. So that translates into real-world use on the Redmi Note 5, at least 2 days for most people. This one here, I believe, is a 2-day phone depending on your use. So if you're quite heavy to moderate use, you may have to charge it every night because it's just not going to be able to do a full 2 days, which is a shame. But the battery life is still decent considering that battery capacity. So the screen on the front of it, it's an IPS panel. It is 2160 by 1080, and that's 2:1 aspect ratio, of course. It's a bright screen, decent blacks on here, not as dark, of course, as an AMOLED or optical OLED panel or anything like that. Sunlight edgeability as well is okay, not the greatest there. Now it does have good color reproduction. The whites, out of the box, the calibration is a little bit cool white, but if you set it to the standard setting, it looks a lot better there. And overall, it is a nice screen. And we've got 2.5D glass corners as well, so that's smoothed off nice. Now up the top here, we've got a 20 megapixel camera. Now this can take some of those portrait photos as well. Here's a sample. So it will stitch in the background reasonably well. But if you have a look around my face, it's not perfect. The rear camera does a better job of that. Now this camera, like the Redmi Note 5, tends to overexpose a little bit, but it is much better, I feel, than the camera in the Redmi Note 5 Pro. We've also got an LED front-facing flash on here too. This is 4500K. And up the top, an IR transmitter, a secondary microphone used for noise cancellation. And yes, there's no 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on this. There is also no micro SD card support. So that is a deal breaker, I realize, for a lot of people, and I'm not too sure why Xiaomi is doing this. I'm not agreeing with their design choices here with this model. I feel that most people would be happy with a slightly thicker build, maybe 1 millimeter more, less ugly camera bump, which sticks out about 2 millimeters, but giving us 1000 mAh hours more of battery, a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and micro SD card support. They would have created then, I feel, one of the best possible phones around for the price. So this one's priced around 300 US, and I feel for what you're getting, it is a very decent phone, apart from, of course, those obvious cons here. So the operating system, due to the 6 GB of RAM, that's very smooth. I haven't encountered any bugs. Multitasking is great. And I won't go into details here with MIUI. I'm pretty sure most people who are watching this will be familiar with Xiaomi's custom UI. So it's their own skin on top of it. It gives you a lot of settings and a lot of things to tweak. In the old days, back in the older versions, I think it was MIUI 6 or 7, I didn't really like it that much, but I've grown to like it. And I do like some of the tweaks they have with this operating system. One of them is the on-screen, full-screen gestures, I should say. So you have a controller, so you just swipe up to go home, swipe and hold for recent apps, swiping from the left or the right is to go back, and it works quite well. And one thing it does save on is those often accidental presses when I use on-screen keyboards with the on-screen menu keys, I accidentally tap recent apps or home, and when you're in full screen mode, of course, that does not happen at all. But it is annoying to see that with that bezel down the bottom, the chin we have, that we don't have capacitive menu keys down there. They still have room for it, so I really wish that Xiaomi would add them there. Now that loudspeaker down the bottom, it actually sounds not bad, but it's just the single speaker there. Here's a sample of what it sounds like. Since we're on the topic of sound, I also wanted to comment on the call quality. Good, no problems, good noise cancellation. It does not sound muffled like the Mi 2S, which is great. So better audio quality, even that loudspeaker is better than their flagship Mi 2S, which is good. And that is also bad for the Mi 2S. I don't know what is going on with that model. I hope there's going to be a fix for that. So call quality, great. Wireless reception and call reception is also good. No problems with the 4G speeds, no problems with wireless speeds either there. So that is all a positive. GPS as well works well. And it won't lock onto every single satellite it sees, but it does always stay around 3 to 4 meters of accuracy. So taking a look at those cameras on the rear. So they have hyped them up a little bit. Now one thing that's not available at the time of my review here is the AI scene detection mode. That should be on here, but the current camera app and the firmware that I am on doesn't have that. So it will not automatically detect a scene. If there's a cat there, it will display a cat like the Mi Mix 2S does. So that is missing, but besides that, from these samples that I've been showing you now, you can see it can take a really good photo. Now compared to the Redmi Note 5, this camera I feel is better. It's just overall better contrast, you get more details in the shadows, and even with video as well, it's got more details. So if you're interested in seeing which one's better, check out my side-by-side camera comparison with the Redmi Note 5 and the Mi 6X here. But here are some video samples now.
So you can record in 4K and EIS is enabled, but it doesn't tend to do a very good job, or it is simply just not working. So it's a little bit shaky, but overall the audio quality is really quite good, and I do like the video quality. This is definitely up there with flagship grade, not bad at all. Now it does of course lack optical image stabilization. We don't have this, but I will show you a fix to get some really nice steady 4K video. So to get that really super smooth, steady, pixel-like stabilization, you just need to use a program called Open Camera, Enable Electronic Image Stabilization. And this is the result here. So this is handheld, I'm not using a gimbal. Hold it really still, and it looks amazing, like it's on a tripod. This is really good. And look at the stabilization now. I'm gonna walk down these steps. Really impressive. And I really do like the video quality you can get out of the Mi 6X. And a very quick low light sample here. You can see that the focus has a little bit more trouble here with these current lighting conditions. So this is video that's being shot on the front-facing cameras. You get 1080p maximum. Even though it's a 20 megapixel sensor, I feel maybe they could have added 1440p, maybe even 4K to this, but 1080p, that's all right for a front-facing camera, I feel. Not too bad. Quality, you can see when I'm in the shade here, is really quite good, not bad. The audio quality as well is good. And low light with the front-facing camera as well. It's not doing too bad at all.
So when it comes to gaming performance, the Snapdragon 660 with the Adreno 512, it runs all the games at 1080p, which this is basically running. Okay, some games will stretch out to the 2160, most modern titles will. Every single game I have tested, which is World of Tanks, Shadowfight 3, PUBG, it's all smooth with very playable frame rates. You do see the occasional little stutters here and there, but that even happens with the Adreno 630, and that's with the Snapdragon 845. It's just an Android thing, optimization's not that wonderful, but all games ran really well, so I'm pleased with the performance with gaming. So overall, this is a really good phone. I do like it. There's a lot of positives on it, but of course those deal breakers I mentioned. So the build quality is great. It's got a really good screen. It's very fast. It's fluid. Really good at multitasking. The front-facing camera can overexpose a little bit. The audio quality in video is much better than the Mi Mix 2S, for example. And if you want really good 4K stabilization, just use Open Camera like I showed you guys with the Redmi Note 5, so you get really stable footage there. Now the focus is not quite as good on this camera as the Redmi Note 5 because it doesn't have that dual pixel phase detection autofocus. It's just phase detection autofocus. So now and then you will see a tiny little bit of focus hunting, but not like the previous generation of Xiaomi's. Now, the operating system, okay, Android 8.1, that's great. We're on the latest version, almost the latest version. Their security patches are coming out for this. They're patching it, they're working on it. Haven't encountered any bugs, so it's all looking good for this mobile, apart from the fact that the camera bump is quite large. That will put off a few people, I feel. But the main thing, of course, is no 3.5mm headphone jack. Maybe not so much of a deal breaker for some, but no micro SD card support. So they really should have put that on their Xiaomi. And that is really the only thing that puts me off. I still feel the best bang for your buck has to be the Redmi Note 5. That is still my favorite. Even though this does have better cameras on it, you get the better battery life, you get an FM tuner, 3.5mm headphone jack, and you also get micro SD card support on the Redmi Note 5. Not to mention, it's a good 70 or 60 US cheaper. So that I feel is the one to go for. But if you must have better low light photography, then get yourself, of course, the 6X. Thanks a lot for watching this review. If you haven't checked out my review of the Mi Mix 2X, that's right up here. And please check out my review of Xiaomi's Redmi Note 5 up here as well. And subscribe to the channel for more up and coming videos, because next week I'm going to have the Mi laptop, which is their gaming laptop, sorry. So that is looking really good and I'm excited to get hold of that one.